Hey, what's up, Grape Nation? After spending a lot of time trying to find someone else's controller guide on the internet and couldn't find a good one, I decided to make my own for Borderlands 4 because the controller settings feel really stiff in this game. And it was really all down to dead zone, but I just figured I would put together a little bit of a setting because it doesn't explain it very well. So I'm going to put up the control settings really quickly, and then you can just copy that. But if you want to know why all of this is happening, then stick around for the end of it. Okay. So you can screenshot that, and there you go. If you want, if that's all you wanted, you can just get out of here. So horizontal look sensitivity, you can. This is really low. Yeah, I set it to 175. You can set that to whatever you feel comfortable with, but start that as a starting point. For aim sensitivity, keep that at 1. Keep it low. If you move this too high when it's aiming, then it doesn't really feel great. Invert your stick if you are a normal person like me, and don't invert it if you're a weirdo. Uh, Cursor setting, I like this. I put this a little stickier for the friction, because I like to move fast over here and then slow. It slows down. That's what friction is doing. It's slowing down fast, slow. All right. Advanced. So don't invert any of the movement. That's just weird. So left and right stick dead zones. This is pretty simple and normal for video games. You want to set the inner dead zones right here, 1 and 2. You want to set them as low as possible without having your stick drift around. So if you have stick drift, set this until your stick stops moving. So when you're just laying your controller flat, if you're moving or looking, then you want to increase this so that it doesn't do that. But right now, the default is 25%, which is an insane amount of dead zone. I've never seen 25% dead zone in a game before by default. So if your controller feels weird, that's why. 5% is on the high side, you can set this down to 2% if you want, 3%. You don't need this to be high. Outer stick dead zone, that is just how far your stick will move until it reaches its maximum distance. So left stick dead zone, I actually would bump that up to like 10% so that you can hit your maximum velocity when you're trying to move sooner. In a game with movement, you kind of want the outer dead zone to be a little bit higher on your left stick because that's your movement stick. And so you want to hit your maximum velocity sooner. I'm going to skip over the axials for a second. Right stick dead zone, you want this to be more specific. So like I might want to bump this down to 0% on my outer dead zone because that gives me more range of movement when I'm aiming. And then the right stick dead zone here, again, as low as you can get it without your stick drifting. Because usually what's going to happen is your stick drift is going to happen on your inner dead zone. So that just means that this is your neutral position without moving, up to 4%. So an axial dead zone is essentially the angle or degree that you move your stick. If you move it less than this, it will register the input as a vertical or horizontal. It'll just zero it out to up and down, left and right. If you move it more than those degrees on the inner or outer part of the stick, then it will register it as a diagonal movement. The image on the screen right now would be essentially if the inner and outer radial dead zones were the exact same. They were just a straight line. The outer axial dead zone is increasing that blue line on the outside of the stick, and the inner axial dead zone is increasing the blue line at the inside of the stick. If you have trouble aiming, or if you have trouble doing exact vertical and horizontal movements with your stick, then you might want to increase this. But for most people who are good on controllers and aiming, you want to set this as low as possible. So you want to set this as low as possible without it having any effect on your controller. So this will feel a lot smoother if you just can set this to 0. You'll feel a lot more range of movement and control with changing the axial dead zone to as low as possible. And as long as you don't see any adverse effect, like if I turn this up, it'll be harder to make like a movement like this where I'm aiming to the side. If I move this up to like 15, the higher that setting is, the easier it is to make these kinds of movements where it's directly horizontal or directly vertical, because there's more of a dead zone there before it registers. Like when you set that to 0, even minute movements will be moving exactly where you want them. So if you want to feel like, if you're good with controller, the axial dead zone is more for people who aren't very comfortable on controller. So turning that up will take away some of your freedom of movement, but this is a better setting to turn this down as far as possible. All right, that's all for the video. If you really just love controller content, apparently that's all my best videos that I make is videos about controller settings. Nobody else does it like I do. Check out my Cyberpunk controller video, I guess.